Give it a rest, he yelled. What's the point? But no one seemed to hear him over all the taunting, jeering, and barking. With her head down, Tanya started toward her desk, but she burst into tears before she could make it to her seat. Spencer thought everyone would let up now that she was crying, but they didn't. Tanya swiveled around and bolted for the door. She must have heard the wave of laughter crescendo before the door shut behind her. Spencer glanced at Damon, who kept his eyes on his desk and nervously tapped his foot. Damon had it a lot worse than her. Spencer had a unique insight into Luke's son. When he and his aunt had spent that first night at Luke's place, he'd slept in the guest room Damon used for his alternate weekend visits. Spencer stripped the bed the next morning, figuring he'd change the sheets for Damon. Under the mattress, he found Damon's journal. He would have left it alone and unread, but it turned out they didn't go back to the Ballard apartment that day. They stayed, and curiosity got the best of him. So Spencer read snippets, enough to know that Damon didn't want to leave the journal in the house with his mother because he was afraid she periodically searched his room. God only knew what he thought she was looking for. Apparently he didn't have a high opinion of the women in his life, because he wrote that Tanya was overbearing and frumpy, and yet Damon and she were together practically all the time. Spencer didn't quite understand that, but he certainly understood Damon's reluctance to tangle with Ron Jarvis and his pal, Reed Logan, who was just as bad. They were relentlessly cruel to him. Spencer cringed as he read a blow-by-blow account of how the two of them once locked Damon in a cramped storage space in the school's auditorium and left him there for 3 hours. I could hardly move, Damon had written. I couldn't breathe. It was so dark in there. I thought I was going to die in there. There was another incident earlier this year when the two of them attacked and stripped Damon naked in the restroom. Apparently, K.C. Cunningham mercilessly made fun of him on Twitter and Facebook. For good reason, Spencer didn't have any social media accounts, so he never actually saw Casey's venomous posts. But Damon described in his journal how humiliating they were. Spencer was no fan of Damon's, but he didn't think anyone deserved such treatment. Maybe it was because he'd been protective of his journal, among other things, that Damon had made him sleep in Luke's study the first weekend they'd spent together in the townhouse. That Sunday night, after Damon had gone back to his mother's, Spencer had noticed, big surprise, the journal was gone. He wondered if Tanya had a clue how much and how often her best friend criticized her in his diary. Yet every lunch period, they usually snuck away to eat someplace in private. Spencer couldn't figure her out. Damon didn't want a damn thing to do with him, and yet for the last 2 weeks or so, Tanya wouldn't leave him alone. Spencer found her part flirty and part friendly, and a bit obnoxious. He couldn't trust her. He was cordial toward Tanya, but kept his distance, which wasn't always easy. She'd sat, uninvited, at this same table with him 2 weeks ago when Damon had stayed home sick. She'd planted herself in the chair next to Spencer and started asking questions about his aunt and his former school in Virginia. Spencer managed to be vague and elusive in his responses. He switched the subject to the play she'd been rehearsing. On that topic, Tanya wouldn't shut up. She went on and on, criticizing her co-stars, their names tripping off her tongue as if Spencer was supposed to know who they were. She talked endlessly about someone named Randy. It was brain-numbing because Spencer couldn't figure out if Randy was a boy or a girl. Was Randy in their class, or was it the name of a character in this stupid play? He wondered how the hell Damon put up with her. This morning, he hadn't seen Damon in world history. Spencer figured what with her best friend home sick today, Tanya would be inflicting herself on him during lunch hour again. Taking a cue from Miss Jello and Whitebread, Spencer had brought along a copy of Jude the Obscure to read during lunch, in case Tanya sat next to him once more. I really need to have this finished by 6th period, he imagined, telling Tanya, as an excuse for why he couldn't talk to her. That had been 15 minutes ago. Spencer had read only a few pages of Jude and gotten halfway through his plate of mac and cheese when he'd spotted Tanya barreling toward him, weaving around the crowded tables with her cell phone raised in her hand. "Oh, my God!" she'd cried, for half the cafeteria to hear. Plopping down in the chair beside him, she'd grabbed hold of his arm. "Have you seen this? Does Damon's dad know about this?" Baffled, Spencer had stared at her. Even after Tanya had explained everything to him, Spencer still couldn't believe it. Apparently, Damon had gotten hold of a student list and emailed the entire junior and senior classes a link to a live webcast. Spencer realized he must have missed the email. He didn't have an alert for them on his phone. He rarely received emails, except spam. On the tiny screen of Tanya's phone, he watched the bizarre broadcast.